I sat down then. That happens when you get over 40. So, welcome back to Boiler House Garage, into the fourth video in the Opel Manta series. Remember in the last video I was mentioning that I was hoping to pick up a pair of Recaro Daytona Check seats. As you can probably tell, that was successful. I managed to get this pair. This is the passenger seat. The driver's one's just loosely in the car at the moment with the typical bolster wear, but that's something I can look at repairing, and beggars can't be choosers when trying to find these seats. They are actually based on the Recaro LS or Alex seat, so you can get alternatives. I think they were even used in cars like the Rover 800 Turbo and Vitesse. What was that other car? Yeah, Suzuki Ignis Sport actually. They've got exactly the same seats, it's just obviously with different covers. And it's got a yellow net on the headrest, but apart from that, a lot of these seats are identical. But trying to find it with the actual Daytona Check cover is pretty hard these days. The frames also are pretty hard to get on these, which this didn't come with. This has got some custom welded thing. I think it was designed to fit a Volkswagen Transporter van or something. On the plus side, it does mean they sit flat, so I can actually use them as comfortable seating for a little while until I've managed to figure out what I'm going to do with regards to the seat frames. What I'm probably going to do is, because I'm going to have to buy some welding gear to sort out the transmission tunnel to finish off the 5-speed conversion, I can use the welding gear to perhaps cut the custom frame that's already on here and add in parts from the car's original seat, but that's something that's a little way off yet. So with regards to getting the car running, I fitted I fitted everything basically back what I'd taken off the car, so it's got the water pump I wanted to use back on. I've flipped the fuel pump around the other way. I've got the thermostat housing fitted now. And of course, yeah, today I've just done the manifold with the carburettor just fitted loosely at the moment. I have got the Bakelite gasket for the car, but I don't have the full set of nuts and bolts for clamping down the carb and the air filter, so that's something I can figure out later. But the main cast, you've got the alloy inlet manifold and cast iron exhaust manifolds, one unit on the CIH engine, that's now fitted. I've also got a gasket for the exhaust manifold itself, so once I've got the rest of the exhaust system, which I'm hoping to pick up on Sunday, I should be able to make some progress with that as well, whichever comes first. With the carb loosely in place, I can see that my plan for the fuel line, sadly I don't have enough of the braided fuel hose to work it around the back of the bulkhead, just to keep the I don't like too many pipes and stuff showing at the front. What I'll probably have to do is have the pipe coming under where the timing cover is, and the sump at the bottom of the car, just to have it running underneath and coming up onto the carburetor's fuel intake, which is actually at the front of the carb anyway. Whether that's a permanent solution or not, I don't know, but we'll see how that goes. It wasn't a major thing, but in the last video I forgot to add where I've fitted the bonnet release mechanism now, and I've adjusted the bonnet where it's an even panel gap all the way around. I've got the alternator that was on the Cavalier installed on this now. It's all cleaned up, and I've got the painted brackets, which probably look a bit shit, but that'll do for now. And the alternator itself probably isn't quite the power output I need it to be, because although I'm not going to be running the quad lights, I want to do a couple of extras on the electrical system. I may have mentioned it before, but there is a kit you can get for the CIH engine when they use them in America for the Opel Manta A series and the Opel GT. The brackets look quite nice. The alternator is designed to basically convert it to a Chevy alternator of some description, and you can get like these polished or chrome ones which look really nice, but unfortunately they seem to be about 250–300 quid, and plus you can't get them in England anyway, so you still actually have to have them imported from America, and with the import tax and shipping it's not worth doing. So it might be just as well that I get the whatever the standard alternator is for the Manta, or I might be able to get an Opel Monza one if it fits, because that's going to be a higher power output on the 6-cylinder CIH. Also goes with the starter motor, which in this I think is one of the Opel Monza high torque ones. It also looks as though the headlamps, I was going to fit them just to tidy the front of the car up for now, and I would like to obviously test the wiring in that soon. I'm going to have to actually take the square headlamps apart and do a bit of a resto on those, because the reflector is all the shiny chrome on it is actually peeling away from the plastic, and I want to try one of these. I don't know if you've seen them advertised online. They're these chrome paint pens, and people have like painted over stone and pottery and even paper, and you can actually have a mirror finish of chrome once it's dry. So I've ordered one of those, so once I've got the square, the headlamps separated and I can get to the reflector, I'll see how good a job it does of repairing those. So let's take a look at the fitting of the manifold. So I've got a couple of hours to spare, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to get the manifold fitted to the Manta. If you saw in the first video, you might already know that the car came with the manifold with this Weber DGV carburetor attached. It's exactly the same carburetor that I had on the Mark 1 Cavalier, which you may have seen the earlier video series. Some of that is different, which you'll notice on the video for when I fit this to the Cavalier. Is this inlet manifold is original to the car. It's got 1979 stamped on it. The Cavalier, if you remember, I did question because it said 74 on here, indicative of it being a 1974 inlet manifold. But of course the Weber carburetor on that bolted straight on, so obviously the Cavalier was a 77, so the inlet manifold wasn't original to the car, but it looks like maybe that Manta A series or some other cars had an inlet manifold designed to fit the Weber DGV straight away. Because you'll notice with this one, it's got an adapter plate to convert what was originally the base for the GM Varijet. I think it was the Varijet 1, yeah, because the 18S had the Varijet 2. The GM Varijet 1 carburetor, yeah, needs this adapter plate. It's more of a reducer actually to fit this DGV on, and I noticed that it's only been put on loosely. It's only got a couple of nuts on here, so I'll have to dig out some stuff from my fitting kit. Let's have a look. There it is. I've got one of the Bakelite spacers. Again, you've probably seen this in one of the previous videos on the Cavalier, but I'll need to put that on here to torque it down and get a good seal. I'm not keen on like multiple, because the Cavalier had a heat shield on. Didn't have a spacer, but had a heat shield, so you end up having layers and layers of different gaskets, and it's asking for trouble with vacuum leaks in the future. So yeah, I prefer not to have them, but yeah, in this case it's just to have a better carburetor on, so yeah, I haven't got much choice there. This, if you saw the first video in this Manta series, I've got an inlet, I've got a manifold, because it's a combined inlet and exhaust manifold, so it's just called a manifold when it's together. So this is a manifold gasket for the CIH engine. And I did pick up one of these. I don't really need it yet until I've got the exhaust, but that obviously goes on the bottom of the exhaust manifold here. And I've got the I do have the downpipe midsection, and then hopefully this weekend I'm actually picking up a modified rear piece. It's just basically got a much nicer tailpipe on it. I'm buying it off the same guy I bought the car off of, and he's also looking after a couple of other parts for me for the 5-speed gear conversion. What I have decided to do is, because obviously you can fit this as one whole unit with the carb, so it makes it easier to access these nuts and bolts, tie everything down, make sure it's torqued down correctly, and then fit it as one unit. Could even put the throttle linkage and stuff on as well, but the linkage bracket. But what I've decided to do is take the carb off, because I don't have the full fitting kit anyway, so there's no point. But of course it'll give me much better access for the manifold bolts that you have to get around the back of it, so it can make it easier to have the carb on for fitting the carb, but harder to fit the manifold on but with the carb in place, and vice versa. So it's yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Something here I'm not sure about is, because the head's been painted, it's the paint actually goes over where the manifold gasket sits on, and of course for any gasket you're supposed to have like a flat, ultra flat surface, ideally directed to metal, but I don't think it's worth sanding all this down, making a mess, making uneven parts. So I think I'll put the manifold gasket straight over it. Yeah, look at the crap I made of that. Yeah, on the subject of gaskets, the thermostat housing and the water pump here doesn't actually have any gaskets. I'm using the silicone instant gasket, which is the stuff I've got is pretty crap. I actually used the last of it up, but yeah, so I may end up making work for myself later with that, but we'll see. Of course, on the plus side, I'm doing something a bit different with the coolant. The coolant pressure on this car is going to be reduced. I'll wait until another video to basically explain what I'm doing there, but yeah, it's a common, it's not really a modification, but it's a common thing to do on a lot of classic cars now, especially full cast iron engines. You can actually use something instead of water and antifreeze to cool the cars. More than that in another video. So slowly but surely it's getting there. Hopefully we'll be at a point where I can test the electrical system make sure everything's working there, and then just after that we can look to fire the engine up. The beauty on a carbureted engine with a mechanical fuel pump as well is that you can just run the fuel in from a little jerry can by just having a pipe feeding the fuel pump and just to see if it fires up. I do have to do a little research on the oil pump on the CIH engines, because they seem to be different on each version that I have, because the Cavalier, for example, just has a flat plate and 2 cogs inside the oil pump. So once you've tightened down that somehow keeps the pressure adjusted, as it were. Whereas on this, you have to use a gasket and a spacer to sort of shim the cover on it, and there's a pressure relief valve on the cover and a little piece that you have to put a drill in and spin it up to actually prime the oil pump before starting the car. So I don't exactly know what tool bit I'm supposed to use or which you can part I'm supposed to turn. I know a lot of people who've rebuilt CIH engines, they just once it's full of oil, they just turn the engine over a few times by hand, crank it over without any spark, and then sort of count that as priming the oil pump, and then start afterwards. I mean, I'm sure that's fine, but I'd like to do things as properly as possible. So I'll be back with you after Sunday once I've picked up the last bit of exhaust section that I need to have a complete exhaust system, and also the last few bits that I need for the to finish off the 5-speed conversion for the gear linkage and tunnel top. So until then, thanks very much for watching.